Little birds that are coming and going. I'm sure we'll see some of them nicely just now. Look at all those insects. Having a look at us. He's not very old bull yet. He's probably about 5-6 years old. Those bosses are just starting to get nice and heavy, whereas some of these other guys are big madodas. Look at this guy that's about to cross the path in front of us here. Big solid guy. He'll probably weigh about 750-800 kilograms. And that's well over 1,500, almost 2,000 pounds. You can still see some mud in his one horn there. If you look on our right hand side, his left horn. Some mud from wallowing yesterday stuck onto the horn as well. And loads of insects just buzzing around him, all little gnats. Not really bothering him too much, as long as he keeps flicking his tail and his ears, keeps them out of his eyes. They won't annoy him too much, but they will definitely go for a wallow again today. One of them doing the early morning ablutions. He's busy urinating. I can hear one or two in the bush. They're also urinating. They've obviously had a lie in this morning. Probably had a good long feeding session yesterday. And this morning they've just been relaxing, enjoying the coolish weather, and then ruminating. You see at the moment he's chewing. He's grinding the grass across his molars at the back of his mouth. And then swallowing it and regurgitating again, chewing more grass, swallowing and keeping doing that, really grinding that grass into a fine pulp, almost like a powder if it was to be dry. Making sure that it gets the maximum nutrition out of the food. Enables them to even digest cellulose, so they can even digest the more tougher, harder cells within grass blades. I love these guys' faces, so much character in their faces. Very stern looking animals. Now when we drove in here, I just called them buffalo. To be technically correct. Oh, there's an oxpecker just flying in. Red-billed oxpecker. Very clear why it's called a red-billed oxpecker. You can see when the light is catching it just right. Bright red beak. Yellow eye. Another one. Just to be technically correct, these are Cape buffalo. African buffalo, if you want to call them that. As opposed to your Indian buffalo, which looks slightly different. Or your Asiatic buffalo. The oxpecker just sitting in the tree and they're calling to each other. Now, these oxpeckers, very important birds in the bigger chain of things out here. They've got a very special symbiotic, or to be very specific, a mutualistic relationship with large mammals. Things like buffalo, giraffe, kudu, all those animals benefit hugely from oxpeckers, and oxpeckers benefit from them. See that one just jumping down there towards the ear? What oxpeckers do is they clean off parasites from large mammals, very often on buffalo, cleaning off ticks, fleas, even little gnats if they can catch them, just making sure that the coat is as clean as they can. Now, I actually forget the exact statistic, I read it a few years ago. I think an oxpecker eats something like up to 2,000 ticks a day. A lot of those ticks are obviously very, very small, something we call pepper ticks, and they're able to get that by combing through the animal's coat. Now, if you were to go really, really close to them, closer than we can do out in the wild here, their beaks are like little combs, so they can literally brush or comb through the animal's coat and get off all little animals that could be bothering that animal. Obviously, the oxpecker is happy. It's got a very specific niche. There's no other animals really competing for that kind of food. And the buffalo in this case is very happy because he's getting cleaned. So they'll allow these oxpeckers, I've seen them climb right down into the ear where you can't even see the bird anymore, right in the corner of their eyes, into their noses. Huge amount of tolerance from animals towards oxpeckers because they know the benefits as well. And that's a true mutualistic relationship where both species are benefiting from it, buffalo and the oxpecker. And then in the case of the oxpecker, they're actually dependent on that relationship. So it's a mutualistic relationship, both for being beneficiary for both species and the one species being dependent on it for survival. Let's have a look at the buffalo to the right here a bit, standing with his head sort of poking out some of those branches. Just starting to graze again. Now, buffalo are predominantly bulk grazers. They eat sort of a wide variety of grass species. They're not too picky. Things like some of your smaller antelopes only eat specific grasses or specific parts of it. Buffalo eat bulk grass. They also browse a little bit. They will eat leaves and so forth, but it's not very typical. In this case, she is doing it. It's not something you'll see very often. She's eating some young leaves there off a common spike thorn. And there's the oxpecker joining her as well. Sorry, I just want to see if I maybe need to correct myself, but this looks like the one female I was speaking of earlier. You can see the horns are much lighter, no big bosses on there. They just smelled something, I think. You see how immediately they paid attention towards the north, towards our left. Quite curious what the direction they're looking is not the same direction as where the wind is coming from, so maybe something they heard rather than something they smelt. Obviously they've got, again, much better hearing than we do, so I can only guess at what that might have been. I didn't hear anything from out here, but they certainly are paying attention. Look at all those bugs flying up, little gnats. Something's bothering me. Just see the way they're moving suddenly. There's a whole different change here. Wonder what that was. And off they go. That's